I'll keep this one as short as possible. Timestamp for each section is in the description. This video is for both new players and those who have seen my old Git Good guide, or for anyone who is confused why I do sacrifice my elite creatures like it's business as usual. The reason is actually quite simple. The meta has changed significantly and the old guide is no longer relevant. Also, we now have the flame patch, which not only stops the game from crashing every time you sneeze, it also fixes all game-breaking bugs and makes it easier than ever to play online, whether you're using the Steam, the GOG or EA version. Game Ranger still works fine, but if you want zero brain cells required to play online, the new Net launcher is the best option for getting started, even if your idea of troubleshooting is just hitting the monitor. So now that you know how to play online, it's time to talk about Rulesets, because not everyone wants a match turning into a sacrifice speedrun. First off, Fireflies. They usually get banned not because they are too good, but they are so bad it's unfair for the player who gets them.
Disappointed!
They just spawn randomly, they take up creature slots, and their only real talent is dying off screen. So banning them is basically a mercy rule. Horny is usually banned not because he's annoying, but because he's way too easy to maintain. Just drop a few wizards into your temple and the mana regen is so high that Horny is basically never running out. So yes, you get horny by having some old dudes on their knees in your dungeon. That's probably not what Bullfrog had in mind. Possession is another common ban, and for a good reason. In the right hands, you can outrange everything, and if you possess a vampire, you can cast Turncoat for free. It's like fighting your opponent while he is hitting himself. Some rule sets ban the temple, and that really changes how you play. So no sacrifices means you can't hoard on creatures. You have to rely on your training, and in that case, elite creatures become even more important since they level up faster than regular ones. I have even seen some rule sets that ban the maiden, because no one wants them, understandably so, but at least you can manipulate their spawn. And finally, most people play between 100 to 200% game speed, and like I said before in my old guide, new players tend to stay on 100% game speed and the OGs go straight to 200%. I'd recommend using my map packs since they bring back researchable rooms. It adds more depth and strategy to each match, just like in the old 1.3 days. You got the rules sorted out? Good. Now let's figure out which units are worth your time and which ones are thrown right back into the portal, and think about the life choices.
A firefly has left your dungeon.
I'm talking about the unit tier list. For early game, this is the time before the mistresses. We have Bile Demons, they go straight to S tier. They're cheap, tanky, and they hit like a truck. They hold the line by themselves, and if you want, they can even build defenses if needed. Warlocks, another S tier. They're essential for research, heal your army in battle, train fast, and dish out solid range damage on top. You can skip them for a rush, but later you'll regret every second without them. Salamanders are A tier. You can rush with them for an early win, or lose everything by trying. Still, they're a solid training partner for your Bile Demons and a good early pressure tool. Skeletons are free and they do not suck. A tier. I put Rogues in the B tier. Even though they're stronger than Salamanders, they show up too late and they come with the casino. And every second spent gambling is a second your creatures do not work. I also put Goblins into B tier because they're decent early fighters, but they fall off quickly. Though they're good enough to get you through the opening minutes. Dark Elves I put into C tier because they're ranged units, but they're extremely fragile. They level up fast, but yet die even faster. Having 1 or 2 of them in your back ranks won't hurt though. Trolls I put into D tier because they build defenses slightly faster than Ball Demons, but to be honest, no one cares about that. They also deal some damage, but they panic mid-fight and they die way too quickly. In Trash tier, we have Fireflies because they're worse than useless. They die, they wander around, and sometimes they do both at once. Now to mid-game, that's everything before sacrifices, and if the temple is in, but sacrifices are out, Dark Angels and Maidens end up here. Not that it makes much sense, but rules are rules. Black Knights, they're strong, they're cheap, easy to train, it's hard to beat that. S tier. We have another S tier contester, and those are Vampires, if possession is allowed, simply because you can cast Turncoat in possession for free and you can easily deal a ton of damage. But if possession is not allowed, they're still great, just not tanky enough to stay in S tier, so A tier it is. Dark Angel are expensive to mass, but they have great damage, solid HP, strong spells, and there's pretty much nothing to complain about except the price tag. A tier. In A tier, we still have Ball Demons. They don't move fast, but they don't die fast either. Warlocks are still at A tier for the same reason as before. They are great support, but no game changers anymore. Now finally to B tier. Here we have Mistresses, because they have a solid burst attack with lightning, but they are way too fragile to stay in the fight. Maidens are also B tier because they're solid tanks. In fact, the second best tank. They are okayish in the temple and not completely useless in research. Not impressive, but definitely better than she gets credit for. Skeletons are C tier because they are free and disposable. Without the temple, they are just meat shields, but at least they come with no downsides. Also put Dark Elves into C tier because they train fast and die fast, but they're still better than nothing. But not by much. Like I said before, rogues are technically better than salamanders, but the casino turns that advantage into a loss. Also D tier. Salamanders are strong when they are leveled, but they rarely live long enough to prove it. So D tier. In Trash tier, we have Fireflies, Trolls, and Goblins. They are the walking proof that not every creature deserves a lair. Now for late game, here you have everything unlocked and sacrifices are available. So in S tier we have Black Knights. They're strong, reliable, and the source of your infinite Knights factory. Ironically, the copy will never live up to the original. Warlocks are back where they belong, into S tier, because they give you access to infinite wizards and they're invaluable in any temple build. Dark Elves are not great on their own, but they're your tickets to infinite archers. They're like stale bread. It's not good, but you can make a sandwich out of it, and that's worth S tier. Dark Angels, same reason as before, just A tier. Vampires, if possession is allowed, again in A tier, simply because of the Turncoat spell again. But this time, you need to be able to dodge most attacks, and you also need to be aware of the chicken spell. But it's a high risk, high reward, definitely A tier. If possession is banned, vampires are still strong, but they are far from unstoppable. They hit hard, but they don't live long enough to survive a real storm. That's why B tier. Skeletons land in C tier, since the best use is in the temple. It's free mana with 0 effort. Ball Demons also sit in C tier, even though they can take a few hits. Keeping them around means your respawn times are slower. You can still use them to craft some traps and doors, but sometimes it's better to let them go. In D tier with the maidens and the mistresses, they're not total garbage, but they have no role in the game anymore. In trash tier with fireflies, trolls, goblins, salamanders, and rogues. If you're still keeping these around, you're basically doing your opponent a favor. Now to the elite creatures. Still, many people are surprised to hear about them, even though the game is over 25 years old by now. They're not just recolored versions, there are a few important things to know, especially when the temple is banned. Elite creatures train faster and work faster, and it's very noticeable, especially on a high level. Also, the payday is 1/3 higher than the one from the regular version. Also, with specific room layouts, you can force them to spawn, even the elite vampire and skeleton.
Beware!
Your opponent can hear when an elite enters your dungeon. As for the elite dark angel, that one's just god tier, plain and simple. There will be a link in the video description where you can take a closer look at each elite unit, as well as a link to the video from WhamNinjaMolehill or whatever, where he shows how to get them. Now that we've seen the elite creatures, let's go back to our foot soldiers. Let's break down how your regular army actually spawns, because the spawn mechanics are a bit wonky in Dungeon Keeper 2. But there's a rough overview on how they work. The first portal allows you to get 15 units. Every additional portal adds 5 more to that cap. All portals share the same global spawn cycle, so having 2 portals means you get 2 units per cycle. And here's a rough timing for each spawn cycle. So what we can see here is that your first and fourth creatures spawn quite quickly, but everything after that takes a lot more time, so keep that in mind in late game. You will always get 1 unit out of your portal, even though you don't have a layer yet. Which unit you get depends on your creature spawn pool. Every species that can spawn for you is in that pool, and the game picks one from it. For this dungeon, the spawn pool looks something like this. You can't control the exact pick, but you can influence the odds. To dumb it down, the bigger the room is, the more likely it is for that creature type to spawn. For Baal demons, the number of wall props increases their chance to appear, and 1 wall prop is enough to spawn 1 creature. So keep rooms small when you only want to use their utility and don't want to increase their spawn chance. Oh, and one more thing. Units from conversion or sacrifices do not count towards that portal cap. So yes, you can exceed that limit, and yes, it's absolutely worth abusing. And here we come to the sacrifices. You can throw creatures into the temple to get specific rewards. There are plenty of combos, but those 4 are those you'll use the most. Knights, you drop a Black Knight and cast Turncoat into the pool. For Elven Archers, you drop a Dark Elf and Sight of Evil. For Wizards, you drop a Warlock plus Inferno. And for Dwarves, you drop a Goblin plus Summon Imp. Then there are a few edge case sacrifices. You won't need them in standard matches, but they're good for specific rule sets, or when you've messed up your creature pool and need a quick fix. You can get a Vampire for 2 Black Knights, a Mistress for 2 Salamanders, and a Warlock for 2 Trolls. And if you want the Giant, you can sacrifice a Baal Demon, Salamander, and cast Tremor into the pool. For Guard, you need a Rogue and the Dark Elf, plus Call to Arms. And yes, you can technically use sacrifices to get defenses too, but don't get your hopes up. The fireburst trap, the lightning trap, the secret door all sounds nice until you realize your imps won't even place them. They just store the result like,
Job's done.
and then wander off. It doesn't matter how well you know the sacrifice table, if your strategy is garbage, you're still going to lose. And there are probably more viable strategies out there, but honestly, there are 5 I actually see working right now. This one is the base strategy. You start by attracting a few warlocks, ideally including the elite one, and give them a slap or two for some motivation. Then you build a foundry around your dungeon heart to attract the Baal demon. And don't forget the hatchery. That setup should comfortably carry you through the early game. Once you unlock the combat pit, attract Black Knights and train your units whenever it's safe. Just remember to never put ranged creatures and melee creatures in the same pit. After unlocking the temple, turn all your Dark Knights into Knights. And if you feel like your mana income is strong enough to keep your army healed manually, convert all your warlocks into wizards as well. With the temple active, you can also build a guard room to attract the dark elves and turn them into elven archers. Also, sacrifice as many portal creatures as you feel comfortable to boost your spawn rate. That way you end up with a wall of knights as your shield, wizards for mana regen and support, and archers adding the extra DPS you need. The mana burn strat is Alden's signature strat, and it's simple but brutally effective if you don't screw it up, of course. You start like you did with the base strat, but when you reach late game, you skip archers entirely and go heavily on wizards and knights and mana generation. You stack up on knights, throw your wizards into the temple, and use all that sweet regen to keep your frontline alive. Whenever you see a knight lose HP, you cast heal. And that's it. You don't care about range, you just shove a glowing wall of muscle into your enemy's face and patch it up with magic juice. You can keep it up as long as you can keep up your mana economy, and once it snowballs, it's incredibly hard to stop. Then there's the good old classic Black Knight Rush. It's pretty all in. You attract warlocks as fast as you can until you unlock the combat pit. Once it's available, you drop a huge combat pit. From there, you hit hard just before late game hits, taking advantage of how early you can get your Black Knights. And if the fight drags on, and you just got access to the temple, you can easily sacrifice your wounded Black Knights and turn them into fully patched up knights, even increasing your spawn rate. If your opponent doesn't shut it down early, the momentum becomes impossible to stop. Next up, my squishy death squad strat. Here you go all in on ranged units and try to survive the mid game with pure firepower. You can play it safer with a few Baal demons, but if you like to live dangerous, you can skip them entirely only to attract warlocks, similar to the Black Knight Rush. Once you get the temple, you start sacrificing, converting all your dark elves for elven archers and all your warlocks for wizards. From this point on, positioning is everything. You want to fight in tunnels or pockets. Open ground is doable, but it'll drain your mana fast. Meanwhile, your wizards pray in the temple. So whenever something steps onto your territory, you unload lightning to stun, inferno for massive AoE, and turncoat to make your opponent's army tear itself apart. At this point, your only real problem is running out of mana before you run out of targets. And to wrap it up, the Salamander Rush. Though the name is a bit misleading because the actual core of the strat is the training room, not the salamanders. You still start with warlocks, and as always, you try to attract as many Baal demons as possible. Throw them into the training room together with your salamanders, and don't waste time training your warlocks. They love up just fine during real combat. From here on, you keep digging towards your opponent non-stop, because this strat only works if you hit early and hit hard. If the rush doesn't achieve anything, you'll fall behind in research fast, and that's a hole you won't climb out anytime soon. Keep in mind that these threads are built for maps where rooms are researchable. If you're playing vanilla maps, the core deal still works, but they do need a few adjustments. Except the Salamander Rush, that one simply won't work in vanilla. But vanilla maps are incredibly imbalanced, but let's be honest, people who play those maps are either playing multiplayer the first time or playing it because they favor the right keeper. Now that the big things are out of the way, let's dig deeper into how to spot cracks in your opponent's dungeon and how to penetrate them using the little things. So let's start with the layout itself, because a smart dungeon design is harder to penetrate. Reinforcing walls is a waste of time, because you can break it too easily with Tremor or Dwarves, unless you want to use it for torture rooms or a foundry to attract bile demons. You can use your dungeon hard walls for getting wall props up quickly as well. Also, one-tile grids of hatchery and layers are super efficient. If one gets claimed, no big deal. And additionally, your creatures don't have to walk that far. The only downside is it's harder to force feed your creatures, as well as force resting them. One-tile corridors are a death trap, but when used right, they work for you. So set up pocket rooms with a single tile entrance, and you'll have all your units attacking at once while your enemy units go in one by one. So you turned that corridor into a tactical meat grinder. Dig out some rooms, not just for mana, it also helps you dropping down rooms instantly when things go south. Once a regular Dark Angel has spawned, immediately place the required rooms to trigger the Elite Dark Angel to spawn. Also, sell bridges under your opponent's army, especially on lava. On water, you slow their momentum. On lava, you burn them alive.
What about
An arena.
We've already had it.
We've had one, yes. What about
Arena.
If you got time, divide your melee and ranged units. Your ranged units will thank you for that. And a small forward position prison helps with quick captures. Then manually transfer the meat to your big boy prison in your main dungeon. And enemy secret doors are slightly darker and have no wall props glued onto them. If it looks weird, break it in possession. And ranged units can shoot through friendly barricades. But rooms won't win you battles, creatures do. Preferably yours, so let's talk about combat. Keep your ranged units 2 to 3 tiles behind your tanks. Too close and they will panic, too far and they will miss all the fun. When you take enemy rooms, sell them immediately. It takes ages for your opponent to reclaim that area, and you get gold and a good position for free. Also, throw down a proxy hatchery near the front line. One bite in the combat KFC and your creatures are back in the fight. Build a layer near the front line and drop all your units in there. That way, your imps can drag knocked out units back quickly, you heal them up, and they're ready to fight like nothing ever happened. Units affected by the call to arms or the guard post are noticeably more aggressive than those who aren't under that effect. Primarily, focus on healing your creatures during combat. Other spells aren't as important. Use lightning to stun, not to kill creatures. You can even shield your freshly dropped creatures by stunning those who want to attack them. Turncoat is costly, so only cast it if you want to save time or want to secure a kill. Inferno is the only spell with an AoE attack, so make sure it lands when enemies are clumped up, otherwise you're burning your mana, not your enemies. But you can't cast spells on vibes alone, so here's some tips on how to keep that mana flowing. Wizards crank out 120 mana per tick, and only the Dark Angels do better by 200 per tick. The more tiles you have claimed, the more mana you get. Imps aren't just there for digging, they're like walking mana batteries. And if you're desperate, just squish a few and boom, instant mana refill. Having so 9 to 10 imps is usually the sweet spot, and anything more and you're running a daycare. And here are tips I don't know where to fit anywhere else, but they're too good to skip. Giants walk and walk faster than ball demons, but they're less tanky and don't have an AoE attack. But they're still a good walking and fighting force. Sacrificing damaged units gives you a fresh and full HP replacement. You could also sacrifice your opponent's creatures. You could also heal them, at least when they are portal creatures and they stay inside your prison, they will still slow down the spawn rate of your opponent. It's pretty scummy, but it works. If you keep CTA active, your creatures will stay motivated, or at least too confused to complain. And as long as you drop your workforce at their job, they'll keep working without asking any questions. Oh, and they also forget what payday is. Next, you need to know where to take fights and why. There are a few points of interest worth contesting, like portals. The more portals you have, the more creatures you'll get, and the less your opponents get. Enemy rooms, especially the library. Sell it, and the spell research gets reset to nothing. Unless they manage to save the books, they're forced to start all over again. The dungeon heart, if it's exposed, you can punish every moment they try to push you away somewhere else. And at the end, specials. They can give you a flat-out unfair advantage if you secure them first. And that's it. If you learned something, that's great. If not, I hope the memes made up for it. Links to all the resources are down in the descriptions. And if you have any further questions, feel free to drop a comment down below and ask here. I try my best to answer them. Or join the Keeper Clan Discord, which is the most active Dungeon Keeper community out there. Special thanks to Alden for pushing the Dungeon Keeper 2 meta harder than anywhere else. For CoolKid for the fact checking and all the support throughout this guide. And Dearlight for the flame patch that finally makes Dungeon Keeper 2 run the way it should.